I am from India. I've always lived there, and I knew what my life was like, with a community of people who looked just like me. But when I was 11, my parents moved me from Bombay to a boarding school in Brighton, which sounds fancy, but really what it meant was I spent the first year trying to pronounce the word scone. Spoiler alert, I still don't know. And for the first 6 months, people kept asking me, "You all right?" And I was deeply concerned I looked chronically ill. At the first glance of Brighton, it was so quiet, with the noisiest thing being the sounds of the sea. My first culture shock when moving to England was the English obsession with queuing. Even getting something like a train was an extremely polite and formal thing, with people constantly apologizing and saying, "After you." Whereas in India, even getting a train was a survival sport, with people constantly shoving and pushing to get to the front. The next day, school started. I was so excited. But when I woke up, there was a moment of panic because I had to look super smart and neat for school, with my top button done up and my tie nicely done. Only problem was, I didn't know how to tie a tie. And I didn't want to ask anyone for help, because in India, I never really did that. So, off I went into school with an undone tie hanging around my neck, looking like a lost puppy in the wind. Except I was literally in the winds of Brighton. This leads me on to my next culture shock: English PE lessons. In India, PE lessons were essentially a free hour where you could just sit and talk and use the Indian equivalent of "my dog ate my homework," which was, "Sorry, I've been advised by my family priest not to touch round things onto Diwali," and to keep using the same excuse. If you wanted to do PE, don't know who would, you could just walk on a balance beam for an hour and try not to fall over. Moving to England, I walked down to my first English PE lesson and I was hit by a rush of wind. I saw loads of people holding some weird hockey sticks and trying not to fall over, wearing shin pads and gum guards, which I just saw as a way to keep warm. This cold weather really made me miss my Indian culture. So what I started to do was watch more Bollywood movies and eat more Indian food. Although one may be thinking, yeah, that's normal. Well, to be honest, I don't think I watched a single Bollywood movie when I lived in India, and I hated the food when I lived there. Although my new school didn't provide any Indian food, I'm still grateful for the food that it did give: pizzas, burgers, and fish and chips on Fridays. After a while, I started to enjoy the peace and quiet of the secluded town of Brighton. In Brighton, it was so peaceful, with the nice sounds of the sea, and the only things that were in your way were seagulls when you had food in your hands. After about 5 years of living in Brighton, I thought I was an expert of living in England. But then I moved to London. And let's just say, reality intervened with a rather humbling correction. It was almost like moving back to Bombay. This may seem insane, but I think Bombay and London have way more similarities than London and Brighton do. For instance, the transport. In London, there are so many more forms of transport available. Only half of it never operates, so the chaos is just the same, bringing out my Indian competitive side to get on the train first. Overall, although the moves were hard, I'm really glad that they happened, because it helped me to adapt to weather and cultures that I'm unfamiliar with. And if anyone here wants to move countries, I say, just go for it, because it will help you explore the world, but most importantly, understand yourself.